Here we are, another edition of the Morris Code on Facebook Live. We're going to get started in just a minute, but I thought I'd turn the camera on just before 1 o'clock. I know that the Facebook sends out the link and everything for people, so we'll give people a couple of minutes to come on to the call. Anyway, Nancy Morris here. It is February 26th. Welcome to the Morris Code Facebook Live. Today I'm going to be talking about a really interesting subject. Well, I find it really interesting because I can see in my day-to-day work for myself and also with my clients ways that this particular brain thing gets in the way or actually helps us to get things done. So I want to share a little bit more information about it because people don't necessarily know what's going on and they don't understand how they can use this to their advantage, but also how it might be getting in the way of what it is that they want to understand, what they want to do, the things that they want to get done. So, and of course, if you have any questions at any time during the course of this, do feel free to let me know and write a little comment or whatever. I'm still figuring out all this Facebook Live stuff, so I can't always tell when somebody's online and I can't see if there's a problem with the mic or anything like that, so do feel free to let me know if there's any audio or video issues. I've had them in the past and I wasn't aware of them. So do feel free to let me know. And as I say, if you have a comment, either ask a question now or in future, if you're watching this after the Facebook Live is over, go ahead and leave a question or comment and I'll see it later. Anyway, what I wanted to talk to you about today was something really cool in psychology that a lot of people don't actually know anything about. And it is something that we all do. It is something that the brain naturally does, and it does have its benefits. You may have heard the term confirmation bias before, but I want to explain a little bit about it, and then I want to give you a little tip, or it's kind of common sense, but people don't think about this when they're butting heads with somebody else. So I want to explain to you how you can actually use confirmation bias or overcome it in order to help people understand your way of thinking, in order to influence people to your ideas, or particularly if you're in a sales environment or something, you can use this little tip to help you to help someone to understand what it is that you really want, the message you really want them to get. So the notion of confirmation bias is one that we've been studied a lot in psychology. It's where we're looking for things to confirm something that we already think we know. Confirmation bias is one of the biases our brain has that has its good points, because what it can help us do is, you know, we by having a confirmation bias, we might shorten our decision making. We might, you know, be able to compartmentalize stuff a little bit quicker because we go through the information that our brain is receiving faster and faster, and so it works in that regard really well. However, confirmation bias means that people are going to limit the options that they have when they're thinking about something. So particularly adults, we like to think we know a lot. So we're going to continue to look for things that reinforce what we think we know. In other words, we're biased to confirm the hypothesis or the knowledge that we think we already have. So in a situation where let's say you've got this confirmation bias going on right now, you're going to only find things that for you actually confirm what you know. You won't necessarily pay attention to, or agree with stuff that you don't agree with already. And so you're limiting the information that you have on a given subject. Now, I could go into a conversation about politics, and I may, if I feel so inclined, in a minute or two. But this is something that we see a lot of in politics. And one of the reasons why we are susceptible to confirmation bias is if the information is a little bit sketchy, if it's a little bit unclear. So what our brain does, is tries to fill in some of that information with what we think we already know. So, and you will see this in political campaigns, some more than others. The information that's put into the world is not clear. You know, they dance around stuff. They don't answer questions. And that's because they want you to answer it with your own confirmation bias and lean in their general direction if you're already inclined to do that. The more information that somebody has given to them, the less likely they're going to have the confirmation bias. However, so if it's a little bit ambiguous, then the more likely somebody is to fill in their own answers, as I say, with what they think they already know. So that's how confirmation bias gets in the way. And that's why sometimes you're scratching your head going, when you're thinking about how somebody could vote for that person or how they could make that decision, it's because they're biased to make it. They already have an opinion about that person. They already have an opinion about the subject matter. And so they're just going to pick information out that matches what they already believe, what they already think they know about that person or that situation. So everybody is susceptible to confirmation bias, including yourself. So what can you do about it? Well, if it's about your own confirmation bias, the simplest thing is to say to yourself, okay, hang on, where is this belief coming from? What evidence do I have to support what I'm currently thinking? And does any of it challenge me? If you're not challenging yourself, well, then you're more susceptible to the manipulations of others through your own confirmation bias. You're more susceptible to make limited decisions. You're less likely to see a whole bunch of different options and opportunities, particularly around problems that you have. So by just challenging yourself, what do I believe? Where did I get this information from? Why do I believe that? Asking yourself these sorts of questions, particularly about big subjects, but even smaller subjects. Why do I have my opinion about this person? Have I only been listening to information from other people that confirms what I know? Like when I'm listening to the gossip around the water cooler, if I think Bob is not pulling his weight, then I'm only going to hear the stuff around the water cooler, people telling me that Bob doesn't pull his weight, or people making insinuations that Bob doesn't pull his weight. That's a really good example of how confirmation bias works in the day-to-day. But in the bigger stuff as well, your political leanings, your beliefs about how things happen in the world, ask yourself, challenge yourself where those beliefs are coming from, and do it gently. Like, you don't have to blame yourself or anybody else. Just, why do I believe this? Where did I get this from? Is there evidence in the world to support another point of view? Another way to challenge your thoughts is to do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. If you're a particular news channel watcher, watch a different channel and listen and hear what they have to say. Don't have to agree with it, that's fine, but just open yourself up to the opportunities that might be there. But when it comes down to influencing another person, remembering that everybody has confirmation bias to one degree or another, how can you be in a situation with another person and help them to still lean towards your way of thinking? What can you do to overcome their confirmation bias, their notion of just nitpicking out of what it is that you're saying, what they believe? If you're butting heads with someone, it's because one or both of you have this degree of confirmation bias. You're just pulling out from the discussion, from the argument, what confirms what you think you already know. You can see this in relationships. Just ask my husband how often we're butting heads. I'm listening to what he's saying. I'm already frustrated or annoyed, so I'm only going to pull out of what I'm listening the thing that reaffirms what I think I already know. So butting heads is a really good example that this is going on. So because you understand confirmation bias, you can say to yourself, okay, I'm going to back this up a little bit. The first thing to do when you want to influence someone to your way of thinking is to find something that you can actually both agree on. There's always going to be something, unless you are really far apart, there's always going to be something that you can agree upon. Start with that. Start talking about what you both agree on. What ends up happening then is the tendency to be biased to confirming what somebody already knows, particularly if they have a good relationship with you. So far it's been a positive relationship, say in business or in sales or something. Start with something you both already agree on. Find something you both already agree on. And then slowly, either in that conversation or over a period of time, present little bits of information that would move somebody towards your way of thinking. Perhaps you have a very strong opinion about something and you want somebody not necessarily to agree with you, but to at least understand what it is you're trying to say, the point you're trying to make. Find some place that you mutually agree, and then slowly move that person or move the conversation to what it is that your best opinion, the bit that's been causing the friction. What you may find is that the tendency for that other person nitpick what you're saying only to confirm what they think they already know, they'll start to move with you because of the dynamic of the relationship. If you find a place of mutual understanding, then you're more likely to be able to influence someone to your way of thinking. It's pretty common sense. Most people go, yeah, of course, I already know that. But if you're frequently butting heads with somebody, if people are not coming over to your way of thinking, if you're not making the sales that you want to, if you continue to have arguments with people at the office, any of these sorts of things, then two things are happening. Either you have confirmation bias, or they do, or in actual fact, three things, or both of you do. So because you know this now, you can actually use this strategy to help to influence other people to your way of thinking. The brain is full of fascinating things. Some are great, some work with you really, really well, and some don't. Confirmation bias is one of those things that has its place. It is a cognitive bias, it is a cognitive tendency, it exists. There's nothing you can do about whether or not it exists, but your understanding that it exists, your understanding of how it either influences you or gets in your way, how it helps you or hinders you through the course of your day, is a really important thing when you're trying to influence people, when you're trying to get things done, when you're even thinking about your own opinions about stuff, is to know that sometimes your brain is nitpicking information or only allowing you to hear things that confirms what you think you already know. The brain is a very powerful place, and the more you know about how it works, the more you understand yourself, what works for you and what does not, the more likely it is that you can make the choices and decisions you need to create the success that you want. This is simply another one of those things that having that little bit of information can help you get through the day, can help you to achieve your goals, be more productive, and achieve the things both personally and professionally that you really want to do. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening live or after, it's posted afterwards. If you have any questions or comments at any time, just send me a private message or an email to Nancy at NancyMorris.com, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care.